Most business owners start a business because they want to be free. They want freedom. And yet, after 5 years or 10 years, arguably they're less free than when they started. And there's a lot of reasons it happens, in my opinion. But I think one of them is that it's not freedom. There's no path to freedom that they create and move themselves towards. It's actually, how do I get away from being trapped, right? Because there's a difference between going away from not being free and moving towards freedom. Because if you're going away from not being free, you're looking back. You're focused on what you don't want. You're focused on where you're coming from, and you're not focused on what specifically does freedom look like, and what are the components and what's the path to get there. And so a lot of times when we see something, we say like, oh, this new thing or this vacation or this business is going to give me freedom. And we don't usually get what we think we're going to get out of something. Like, the experience of having it is very different. I mean, if you ever had anything new, a car or a new toy of any kind, then you realize having it and the experience of having it and the utility of it is very different than the idea of wanting it. And sometimes there's status in that. Like, I want to be a business owner. And, I don't mean to say that with sarcasm, but like, it's just a different form of work, and it's still work, and it's still hard, and there are more. It's proportionate from a risk reward standpoint, meaning if you own the business and you take more of the risk, then you get more of the reward in the end. And a lot of times, though, we don't have a plan going in, so we get into it like, owning this business is going to give me freedom. And in the industry that I've come from, which is real estate, then it's definitely the case of like, I'm going to get in and create this business inside of real estate, and it becomes a job. I mean, it doesn't become a business because of the framework of how we approach it. And it becomes a job where you get stuck in a loop where you consistently are pushing forward. And, specifically within short sales cycle businesses like real estate, if you ever stop on the generation of new business, then everything falls out from under you. And so it's like building a sandcastle where the ocean keeps coming up and taking down part of your sandcastle, and you have to keep building it back on top of it. And so certain businesses aren't meant to be built into the end result. Like, if you have certain businesses, it can be like, we go all this way, we sell it, when we're done with it, we sell, we exit, we trade that for some sort of freedom. And not to discount the people that are doing it for the intrinsic reasons, because they get fulfillment out of it because it serves part of their purpose. And yet a lot of people are using it as a tool, and they use their business as a tool and as a means to the end, and they get stuck in the means. And so they're not using their business is using them. And with a lot of them, lifestyle creep happens. So you get a certain amount of profit, and now you need the profit, and you need it to live and survive. And then you lose the margin that you create to be able to build wealth and take that money and put it elsewhere. And so if, we have to know what the tool is, and the tool should be shaped based on where we're going and what we're wanting to accomplish. And when we don't have any idea and we get stuck in it and we feel trapped in this business, then it's obviously not good for mindset. It's not good for clarity. And we get stuck where we have to get up the next day and go do the thing. And we have to do the things that are noisy over and over and over again, because now our lifestyle demands it, which is really common. And there's lifestyle, there's identity, and we just don't hone the tool to fit the purpose of what we're wanting to accomplish. And so Like a shovel and a screwdriver are very different in application. And we go into business with this assumption of like, oh, great, I've got a screwdriver for my business and we really needed a shovel, or vice versa. And it needed to be adapted towards the end result. And so if that is, time freedom, if that is additional money to trade back and buy back time, if that is supporting roles in the organization that allow flexibility and freedom, those are all valid. And yet most people don't know what they want. And there's a lot of layers to this. So if we look at the reasons why, from a perception standpoint, a mindset, a belief standpoint, and an identity standpoint, we get tied up in the identity around it, or limiting beliefs potentially, like limiting beliefs around other people doing it. We have an issue around control and we can't let go of the things. And a lot of times we can't let go because our identity, who we are, our enoughness is based on what we're doing and in the business. And if somebody else comes in and they can do it adequately, what does that mean about our enoughness? And what do we do then? And that insecurity, that like uncertainty cannot be tolerated for a lot of people. And so we get stuck in this place where we identify with the role that we're playing in the business. And so we come in saying, this is a great tool for me to move towards freedom, even though I don't really know how. And then we get stuck in like, well, I am this thing. And we bring in stuff from childhood or way back, and we measure our worth with the business. And and then we push to leverage and we push to get help in the business. And then we can't figure out why we can't let it go, or we can't get the right people hired. And so we end up with this problem where ultimately, if we were able to get the thing that we want, could we even tolerate it? Meaning like, oh, I have to have more space and time because that's what's important. I feel suffocated by this business and I need time and space to think and to be and to just get a break from all of it. Well, if we gave you that, you probably wouldn't take it, because all work expands to fill the time allowed, because we're allowing it to take up so much time, and because the alternative, which is space or silence or beingness without all the doing and hustling for worth, that is intolerable. I've coached a lot of people where they say, like, where they won't reduce the amount of time from an efficiency standpoint that the business takes, and they can't really figure out why. And ultimately, it's usually because they cannot go like they can't quiet down. If it gets too quiet, then all of this stuff that they've shoved down and shoved down and shoved down, it starts to pop back out. And that is the worst thing for them, or at least they think it is. And so they can't tolerate that, so they stay busy and they use the words that they're too busy and everything's so busy and it always has to be done, and it always has to be done by me because I'm the only one that does it all the way right. And the reality of the why is normally several layers deep. And so when we get into perception, then we figure out that's the main problem. And so back when I was, first into real estate and getting to a point of leveraging, I realized I cannot I can't tolerate my own feelings. I can't be with those feelings that show up when I'm not obsessively achieving the next thing. And if I can't, I finally realized at one point, going through trainings and different things, like, oh, I can't handle the space. And if I can't handle the space, then of course my unconscious mind, like myself, I'm not going to get to the point of having the space. I'm going to keep constructing it to where I don't. And a lot of people get to that point where, like, okay, I want freedom, but I don't have a plan towards freedom anymore. Maybe I did. Maybe I had one at one point. Maybe I didn't. Maybe I've just been I ran away from something into this business to get freedom. And now I don't know what I want. all I know is what I don't want. I can look around and see all the things that I don't want. I don't want to be away from my family so much. I don't want to feel like I always have to be on. Like, I don't want to be, month to month on financials. Like, I don't want to not be able to feel like I can leave my business. And it's because of the lack of clarity of the tool. And like, if I put a shovel and a screwdriver, whichever one your business is to you, and put it up next to you, then I could point out, like, well, this is not you. Like, you got confused. You think you're a shovel now. You're not a shovel. You were the one that picked up the shovel and used it, and all of a sudden one day you're like, oh, I am a shovel. And that happens deeper down. And you just stay in this mentality of identifying with the role that you play in that business. And for a myriad of reasons, that is very unhealthy, and very common. It's very, very common. And that is super disempowering to you, because when we start identifying with the role, we become blind to a lot of things that we can't tolerate becoming aware of. And so, as we get back to number one, the awareness of, like, I'm stuck in this thing, I cannot get out of it, I want to get out of it, then we can start to peel back the layers to say, from a practical standpoint, from a financial standpoint, from a leverage or lack of leverage standpoint, what's the practicality of where you're at in your situation, and where is the emotional part? Like, some people have plenty of finances and plenty of leverage to step out, they just won't do it. Or you sought and hired specific personalities that have to have you being there so that you can remain in control of the whole thing. And the financial part of it, the mental part of it, and mental and emotional part of it can be the barriers. Sometimes it's simply a lack of clarity. Like, we get stuck on the hamster wheel, we get stuck in the spin cycle, and it just takes waking up to realizing, like, what am I doing this for? What is this thing? Like, what I know what I thought it was in the beginning. Now, what is it really right now? And how do I start to shift it to be the tool that I need for the future? Meaning, we've got to take time and look into the future and figure out, what is it that you actually want to move towards? Because as a business owner, and having coached a bunch of business owners, it will always turn into the business is in control of you 100% of the time, unless it's a business that will just dissolve and go away on its own, if not perpetuated. Then it will take control of you, and then you will get stuck in it. And we have to turn that back around. We have to empower you to turn it back around and use the business as a tool for where you want to go and what you want to accomplish. And so there's a lot of ways to do that, but number one is clarity. Start with clarity and awareness of what are the internal pieces that are getting in the way. Like, I say I want this. What's in the way of that? Not all the excuses about all the things that need to change in the external world and need to change in your business, because yes, they're excuses, and yes, some of them are valid, but that's not where the root of it is. Because if you could start the business and get into the business, you can get to where you want to go with it. You just don't have enough clarity on what are the things in the way. And a lot of times it's things in our perception. A lot of times it's deeper things getting in our way that are stopping us from moving forward. So number one, clarity and awareness on our perception of what are the barriers to getting there. And then number two, still clarity and awareness of where do we want to go. And then number three, what specifically does the tool, the business, need to look like to get us where I want to go? And even if it's a beautiful, wonderful, like heart-centered reason for having a business, you're still looking for something specifically to use the business as a tool to get to. Maybe it's impact. Maybe it's, charitable things around people fed. Maybe it's, whatever it is still something where a business is a tool. and it will always be a tool. And if the business is being treated like the end result and not the tool to get you to the end result of a certain feeling or a certain situation or a certain level of impact, then it will inevitably create pain for you.